Happy Christmas, everybody. Ipswich are not going to be top on Christmas Day. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Craig, have you got home from Wycombe?
Ho, ho, home. Yes, I have got home from just about. I think everyone was in the same boat yesterday, unfortunately, not being able to get the boat. Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. Gridlocked for an hour and a half after the match, at least, I think.
Get the moaning. Anything you want to moan about, Dave? Your computer's bust today?
Yeah, computer bust, but I've got it semi-sorted out. But no, not really. Only that George, my lad, was at university in Wycombe, so I know I share your frustration with the traffic round there. It is shite.
Well, and so was the result somewhat, wasn't it? I suppose a nice back down to earth after a 7 games unbeaten, Craig, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And hopefully we can just be a little bit more level-headed. We didn't want to be doing this podcast about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock yesterday evening, but
well, you'd
Plymouth
still been in the car, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, exactly. We never had much signal in Wycombe either.
5 minutes from the ground, yeah.
Yeah. But Plymouth have had their own blip, haven't they? They hadn't won in a few games before yesterday, so it's going to happen. Just got to make sure it doesn't happen too often, haven't we?
You agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, I think so. It was always going to be, I know it's a cliche, always going to be difficult. You know what you're going to get there, and probably, let's face it, well, you were there as well last year, weren't you? Our result there last season was perhaps a little bit of an anomaly, probably. But yeah, and it's always going to be tough. You know, you had two of your back four, your regular back four out. Obviously, Donacien and Wolfenden. So yeah, that was kind of a blow when. Well, we weren't surprised about Donacien, but we're hearing all sorts of stories about Wolfenden in the week, going from like 6 months, for God's sake. So hopefully I don't think it's not that. I think McKenna's played that down. But yeah, it was, that certainly was a bit of a blow.
What's the latest on Wolfenden then, Dave?
I don't know. I think he said not too serious, didn't he, Craig? I think he said, and Donacien also, I believe I saw that not too serious with, I guess it didn't indicate whether they'd be out for the Christmas period. So
I think Donacien was sooner than Wolfenden, and Wolfenden might miss 1 or 2 more.
Yeah,
I think
that was the gist.
But it's over today, isn't it? Boxing Day, so it's a week tomorrow, isn't it? Boxing Day.
Yeah, so our players just seem to they kind of play it down quite well with injuries, because sort of Evans suddenly appears on the bench and gets some minutes. Necessity yesterday probably, but he suddenly appears and gets some minutes, albeit perhaps a little bit rusty, but at least got some minutes in his legs, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, should we get straight into this then? Let's say some hellos in the chat. Veronica, Max, David, MW, Eric, Matt, Dan, Gary, Charlie. Thank you all for joining us. We'll do some questions. We'll do the Wycombe match, then we'll do a bit on League One, then we'll do some questions after that. But keep the chat going, because if stuff pops up that's pertinent to the chat, we'll put it up on the screen for the guys to look at. And of course, if you're watching right now, do hit the like button to get us to reach as many people as possible. Certain people, as you've already mentioned, didn't reach Wycombe yesterday, including 2 of our centre backs. A little bit of a change of shape. Let me bang through the team here. You've already mentioned the key things, Dave, but Walton in goal. So Leif Davis and Kane Vincent-Young in a back 4. Richard Keogh, head it, kick it, and Burgess are the centre backs. We're still with a midfield pair, given the injuries of Sammy Morsey and Cam Humphreys. A 4-2-3-1 shape then. So Burns front right, Chaplin 10, Jackson front left, Freddie Ladapo up top. What's your take on that selection, David?
Perhaps a slight surprise that Aluko didn't start after being very, very good for 70-odd minutes last week. But again, I guess they're sort of nursing him back in. I mean, other than that, I think there was general surprise at Keogh perhaps starting over Edmondson, but then subsequently we learn also that perhaps Edmondson didn't train, had some sort of small injury last week and didn't train for 2 or 3 days. There was quite a lot of, I think, surprise at kickoff that Keogh started, but like I said, subsequently perhaps the manager cleared that one up. Other than that, yeah, no surprise, no great surprises really. I think you knew what was coming. I think there it is. There it is.
Who had 8:05?
Who had 8:05? You knew what was coming, and that's completely funny. That must be Strictly's finished now. That's why.
There you go.
It is. Yeah. I think you knew what was coming. Yeah, it's thrown me off my stride there.
Do you want to give us your thoughts on the Ipswich team then, Craig?
Yeah, it was pretty much, as sort of Dave said, once we found out what had happened with the players that weren't in, it's pretty much needs must, wasn't it? I think in terms of who ended up playing, Aluko was probably, as Dave says, we're just being careful with him, having done a good chunk of last match's game. To do it twice in a space of weeks, probably asking too much. And then with Keogh playing instead of Edmondson, who played very well when he came on actually at half time. But yeah, you look at the bench. It was a nicely balanced bench actually. I thought we pretty much covered all eventualities.
Craig. So Flagship, Lee, Hadmi, Aluko, Edwards, the return of Evans and Edmondson. If you want to elaborate a bit more, especially on Evans coming back, that's great news.
Yeah, well, you sort of covered all bases on the bench, hadn't you? You got a fullback, you got centre half, you got centre midfielder, you got a number 10, you got a winger, and you got a striker and a goalie. So you pretty much have got to the point where you covered all eventualities, but probably none of them were potentially ready or ripe to be starting the match. So that probably explains why we had to do what we had to do. And yeah, just a little bit about Harness was also there with the guys yesterday, and he was warming up initially by himself, but then he joined in with the subs doing their roundels and chasing round each other and all that stuff. And he looked back to max sharpness pretty much. So I'd imagine he'll be maybe on the bench again at Boxing, or maybe on the bench with the other returning injuries on Boxing Day.
Yeah, we'll have a look at the schedule, Dave, and try and figure out how those guys are going to be dripped in. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, I mean, did you think, Craig, yesterday, from what I saw, perhaps not a game too far for Humphreys, who's been absolutely brilliant, but perhaps physically we lacked a bit in there. I mean, I think, well, you will obviously, perhaps you'll describe the goal, but I think, the defence didn't cover themselves, but yeah, he was pretty out-muscled there, wasn't it? So I'm not saying it's a game too far because, he's still, from what I saw, put in one or two brilliant balls as he always did. Great cross for Edmondson, which perhaps he should have done better with. But perhaps we missed a bit of physicality in there yesterday.
I think we did second half against Fleetwood as well. I think that sort of started there, didn't it? And yesterday, he was pretty anonymous for the match. But thankfully, Morsey was putting in two people's shifts yesterday. He was a one-man centre midfield yesterday.
Absolutely superb, wasn't he?
Immense, yeah.
But let's have a look at this Wycombe lineup, because I mean, to be fair to them, they've got players missing themselves and people covering. Strychek, who Craig's probably going to tell us, he's been very decent in goal for them, hasn't he? McCarthy and Abita, the fullbacks, where they were maybe a little bit light was Grimmer doesn't normally play centre half. I always remember Dave picking out Alfie Mawson for Barnsley on day one of the 2015 season, and then him being sold for about 15 million quid.
Swansea.
A couple of years later.
Weird.
Shout, Dave. But when I look at these names, I do think experience and played in chat. I see Lewis Wing and Josh Scowen. Do you know what I mean? They go for a certain profile, don't they? David Wheeler, Gareth McClary. Right. I have on good authority that Anis Mehmeti was watched by a scout from a team yesterday, and you would never guess who the team was, but I'll tell you off air anyway. And Brandon Hanlon up top. I mean, look, we always go for the know what you're going to get story with Wycombe, don't we, Craig? But very much in a Neil Warnock type way. Ainsworth does let flair players play, and they do have that threat in the front four, don't they?
Yeah, they do. But it's very much, as you expect. There's not a lot of fanning around with it, shall we say, in the back four. It's straight up the middle of the pitch. Although Ainsworth was getting very annoyed with Strychek in the fact that he was hitting it straight in the middle of the pitch rather than towards the corners of the pitch. In the second half, he was doing his nut every time that he got the ball and punted it towards Christian Walton rather than towards the sides. Funnily enough, I was chatting to 2 or 3 of their fans actually before the match, and they were all of the similar opinion in that they're a mid-table League One team that's not going anywhere anytime soon, and they were all pretty much getting bored of Ainsworth football. Really, it's a bit like dear old Mick. It's all very well winning ugly, but when you stop winning, it's just ugly, isn't it? And I think that's where their sort of fan base is sort of at, and it's showing with their attendances. There wasn't many people there yesterday, and the guys that I was talking to just said they couldn't see where and how that was ever going to increase, because it's just it's not attractive and it's not winning at the moment, so it's difficult to get a
Tell you
crowd
what,
going.
though, they're not a million miles off the playoffs, are they?
No.
And Dave, they're not a million miles off being able to win 6 games out of 8 at home, are they? Do you know
No,
what I mean?
I don't think so. Conversely, what you said earlier, it looked from what I saw of it yesterday. We played Mehmeti pretty well, actually. I didn't think he was too involved at all, really.
That can happen with a 10, though, can't it, Dave? It can get a bit clogged up in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
The spaces.
He was trying to drift out wide and do bits and pieces, but it didn't really come off to him. He was well handled by Vincent Young in the main.
Do you want to take us through, maybe if you do the main business, Craig, and then Dave can respond. Do you want to just take us through the first half, the pattern, and then the goal, really, which we'll have to sort of unfortunately go into detail on?
Yeah, sure. Well, I said the first probably 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, not an awful lot happened. It took us a while to get into the game. They were pressing pretty high up the pitch. Goal kicks, they had 3 or 4 of their guys on the edge of the area, ready to intercept our short goal kicks. And Walton a couple of times tried to dink it over that first line into midfield without much success. But on the 2 or 3 occasions we did manage to break through their press, it was only 1 or 2 passes and we were through them, or I think a driving run by Vincent Young on one occasion, and also another immense one from Morsey. He must have run about 50, 60 yards with the ball. Once to Ladapo. I think Vincent Young one was to Ladapo, and he hit it over.
Left foot,
that's the one. And Morsey slipped it through to Burns, who couldn't then pick anybody out with his cross. So, we were sort of growing more into the game and getting past their press.
There was a great move when I think the ball was played into Jackson. He did a really nice flick to Morsey, who played in Chaplin, and he's usually deadly from there, isn't he? But he just scuffed it, sort of thing.
That was our one big chance. That was our one big chance.
That was
of the
the
match.
one.
That came up on the screens where I was, and we had a conversation exactly what you just said. It seems Chaplin sometimes, and I mean, Dave, you're far better footballer than me, so you might have an idea on this. He either seems to arrow it right into the corner or scuff it.
Yeah,
nothing in between. Do you agree?
when he does finish, he finishes
Yeah.
properly, as we've seen. You know, the Buxton goals, even the one last, well, not a header, but the one last Saturday. Yeah, odd, really odd. Yeah, I think he seemed to. I mean, almost it was such a good move. He thought a great opportunity. He almost seemed to get a bit overexcited and snatch at it. To be fair,
He
but
just
once,
seemed to
unlike last Saturday, he didn't go cold. You know, he didn't go cold and sort of hit through it. He just weird.
And he was a lot closer because obviously we're at the far end from that chance. But as you're right to say, David, it was a lovely move. But and this is probably significant when we talk about the match in general later. It was all one touch. The ball from Burgess was into Jackson. It was one touch into Morsey. It was one touch into Chaplin. It was a first-time shot, and that's how, on the rare occasion we were getting through them, is how we were getting through them, is by virtue of doing it just slightly quicker. But yeah, I think Chaplin. It was just a real powder puff sort of pass, wasn't it? Straight to strike check. It wasn't any. Normally, he arrows them in, doesn't he? Arrows them into corners, or at least hits them with a bit of pace. But yeah, that was it. That was pretty much our one big chance of the match, unfortunately.
Do you want to take us through the goal then, Craig? And I'm sure we'll get some comments on this.
No. It's horrible. It's a horrible goal.
Yeah, it is a horrible, and it comes from nothing. And you watch it on the replays, and you can like freeze frame it at the point whereby the ball's fed into Hanlon, isn't it? It scores it in the end. And he's
coming short, Craig. Presumably, just knock it off and get himself in the box, right?
His first touch.
He's coming short for 35 yards out on the angle. And you should say, Dave, his first touch is poor. So it ends up being a 50-50 with Humphreys, which he wins.
Yeah.
And then he sort of turns, and Humphreys pretty much just ushers him into the penalty area. But he's just not strong enough to...
Sorry to interrupt.
Knock him
Humphreys does that thing where he does the worst possible... Love Humphreys, by the way, but we've all been there, where you should now pass him on. The worst thing you can do is try and keep, because you actually then get in the head and
everyone else is backing off. Yeah.
Of who is going to come and tackle next,
Yeah.
don't you? So he was in a horrible position, and I'm sure you're going to describe Burgess's attempted tackle in not too much glory. But if that had been a straight one-on-one, I think he'd have made a better fist of that. Do you know what I'm saying, Craig?
Yeah, very possibly, because he got the wrong side of him, but wasn't strong enough to get either pull him down or get the right side of him and make everyone's mind up, if you know what I mean.
And exactly where Evans would have just bought the foul there. It'd have just
How close to the edge of the box was he at the point where he could have pulled the shirt?
He probably wasn't inside the box. I wouldn't have thought. But
you take the free kick, yeah.
The original challenge by Humphreys put Evans in that situation. If he doesn't win the ball, he just takes a foul. He just fouls
takes the shirt and the yellow card,
yeah. He's stronger, isn't he? He's just a stronger player. But as you say, but once he's inside the area, and it's not the most elaborate of shimmies that sends Burgess off for a ball throw, is it? In the
Burgess
stands.
almost seems to commit himself before he doesn't really have to do a lot. Burgess sort of throws all his weight to his left, trying to anticipate what Hanlon's going to do. It's an odd one. It's a really odd and good finish. But
once he's in, he's got the rhythm going.
Momentum, that's it.
Horrible goal.
But and that was pretty much it from them. First half and second half, and it literally just came out of absolutely nowhere. And so you can freeze frame it when he collects the ball initially, and he's surrounded by 3 or 4 Town players with his back to goal, 35, 40 yards out, and you think, well, in about 3 seconds' time, he's slotting it past Christian Walton.
Are we in two things can be true, Dave? Territory. Well played, son. Good goal. Crap defended. Both true.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. To be fair, it is a strong run, but should have been perhaps nipped in the bud. Let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's your kind of summations of the first half as a whole, then, Craig? Because we got substitutions and whatnot to get to in the second half.
Yeah, well, the feeling from mine, I was there with my boy Oscar, and we both thought we were still going to win it. We went 1-0 down last time, didn't we? When we played them, and the chances we had created were half decent chances. You just thought, well, if we can get an early goal second half, then there's no reason at all to think that we can't do the same again. I say Wycombe offered nothing. We hadn't really peppered their goal. Now, don't get me wrong, but we were making half decent chances. There's no reason to suggest that wouldn't continue, but unfortunately it was just a bit more huff and puff second half, sadly.
I can give you half-time numbers, actually. 9 shots to 6, 66% to 35. Ahead in corners, even ahead in aerials one, strangely, which you wouldn't think against Wycombe. But it feels like they had their chance, they took their chance, and they held on to the goal. Dave, anything more on the first half?
No, I don't think so. No, I think Craig sort of summed it up pretty well. I mean, I don't think we were that bad, were we? And they, one bit, as Craig said, it weren't even a chance really for them. Well, it shouldn't have been a chance, but pretty much the only sort of real attempt of any note they had, they score. And I know we came back from last year. We were 1-0 down last year, but I think we scored pretty quite early on after that, didn't we? Equaliser, I think. And they've got that to hold on to, and it is going to be difficult. But like Craig said, at half time, I was still fairly confident that we weren't going to get beat at least.
So we get this half-time substitution. Keogh out, Edmondson in. What was the deal with that one, Craig?
It transpires that Keogh had taken a knock. He'd got kicked on the calf or felt his calf. So it was more of a precautionary thing to make sure before it went properly, sort of thing. But I say Edmondson come on and he did absolutely fine. He took on he played the wolf in the role more than Keogh would play the wolf in the role, if you know what I mean. He was breaking forward quite a lot with the ball, albeit with a little bit more panic in his eyes when he did it. But yeah, he did perfectly well, because they really didn't offer anything from an attacking perspective. So it was very much that channel that a lot of our attacks were coming through. They were just standing off and letting him have the ball, and it was more the onus was therefore on us to create something. But as we sort of found out in the last few weeks, once teams start to sort of sit in and as we find out, these teams are very well drilled and from a defensive positioning and setup perspective. Once they're set in and settled, we struggle to break them down, don't we?
Wycombe are one of the best at that. As I
Yeah,
literally saw Wycombe defend for 90 minutes of a playoff semi-final and get through to the final. You know, they against a very good MK side.
Yeah. And as you say, Ben, we had a lot of corners, but against Wycombe, you can have as many corners as you want, can't you?
Yeah, they're very good on the old set plays. Evans in on 62, Edwards and Aluko as well. Which take on the subs, Dave?
Yeah, I think it needed it at the time. It needed freshening up. As I said, brilliant. Perhaps slightly unexpected, but brilliant to see Evans back. I think Edwards, as we know, can be that impact. Can be frustrating, but perhaps that is more of an impact player. I think from the bench. And yeah, once or twice yesterday, he's capable, and you just see with Edwards, he'll sort of drop his shoulder and ping a ball, and you think, yeah, go on, just take it on and get hold of the ball, committed defender and stuff. He's just a bit of an enigma, Edwards. I really like him. I think he's a player. I think that with confidence can be. And he's important for us. Could be a great player for us, but can be frustrating at times. But yeah, and Luco, I think Luco again, another experienced guy comes off the bench. You think someone who'll be able to put his foot on the ball and pick a pass, and he did once or twice, to be fair. But yeah, ultimately, just not our day, was it?
And what about the sort of failings in terms of the attacking patterns, Craig? Is it as straightforward as it being a stacked defence, or is there anything more to it?
Well, I say we just didn't do in the second half. Certainly, we just didn't do things quick enough to my eyes. I said when I referenced the chance that Chaplin had in the first half, it was all one-touch football. Well, I appreciate if they're sat in his league more difficult, but Dave says about Edwards. Edwards had the ball a few times and jinked past players a couple of times, but his final ball and his final shot were textbook Edwards that we've seen more often than not, unfortunately. Aluko was very deep. He was sort of taking on the David McGoldrick playmaker role by picking it off the back four rather than
more from him in about 15 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, because there was a big gaping hole just behind Ladapo and in front of Morsey, which was there from the first half. And we thought, well, if Aluka comes on, he'll sit very nicely in that hole. But he just seemed to drop deep, looking for the ball rather than sitting in that hole and looking to pick a pass a bit further up the pitch. But as I say, we sort of huffed and puffed. We kept the ball, but there was no real attacking threat. Aluko slipped in Ladapo in a very similar position to his Plymouth, very similar looking chance to his Plymouth one, albeit a bit closer.
That perfect chip into the corner against Plymouth.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
it was weird. It was exactly the same, wasn't it? It was exactly the same. But
but no, unfortunately, it looped.
Saved it.
He did. He got a tiny little touch on it. It was right where we were stood, and he managed to get his frame off the ground to tip it.
I didn't think our final ball wasn't that great yesterday when we did get in good positions. It wasn't, was it? And I think I know what you said about Wycombe defending corners. I don't think Davis' corners are quite as good as they sometimes are yesterday either. There was a couple where quite easy for the keeper just to come and catch and stuff. So just
what we also found was, you talking about crosses and final balls, is that they were chucking themselves in the way of everything. They were stopping our crosses. They were stopping our shots from 18, 20 yards out. It was hitting their player just inside the penalty area, whereas we're not great at stopping opposition's crosses or chucking our way, do the dirty defending part of the game. It's
I've
just
got the numbers actually, Craig, which will back up exactly. They're very good for Wycombe's headed kick it. Look at that. 12 interceptions, 9 blocks, 24 clearances, 6 keeper saves. So the actual last line of defence was obviously, and they're happy to do that, aren't they? In terms of, they're deep, they're ready to take the hit, and there's often 2 rows of it as well, which is very helpful in terms of getting blocks off, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So they sat, and it was the worst team we could have come up against. Them having not even half chance scoring from it, and then sitting in. Yeah. We could have been there till today.
And they were without one of their centre halves as well. When they tapped with Zoli, he wasn't there either, was he?
Yeah.
And he's a huge threat the other end.
With Ainsworth, they're just well organised, aren't they? But not to do them a total disservice, as Ben said. They have got some fair players. They've got some players that can play. But yeah, it was textbook Wycombe, wasn't it?
Well, Dave, when we've come up against Warnock during the span of the pod, we've almost talked about the team being split down the middle a little bit, and you'll have some stoppers in midfield, and often that half, kind of the only interaction they have with the other half is trying to get the ball to them quickly. But then there would always be a dribbler who, well, we're going to get the ball to you fast, go and run at players, take shots, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, just I think having watching it, and obviously not being there, and having the added frustration of the car journey battle, at least getting out of Wycombe. Yeah, a very, very frustrating afternoon, I'd say.
But then you listen to McKenna and he said, look, we pretty much played it perfectly. We completely nullified them. We controlled the game, which we did, albeit 40 yards away from their goal. And you can argue, did we control it or did they control it? We controlled the game from 40 yards out. They controlled us and just kept us at arm's length 40 yards out.
This goes back to my Shrewsbury game I talk about a hell of a lot, where would you rather have a process in place that appears viable for the long term, or would you rather kind of win 3-0 with a couple of counter-attack goals and they get a bloke sent off and you're like, where's all this going? Anyway, let me do the numbers properly, because what I will say is, and I looked into this yesterday, it's not as mental as some of the other ones where you look and they've got 0.1 XG or something, and you've got 2.7, and it's not almost as bad as the ones against, say, Lincoln at home. That's probably the worst one, isn't it? Where it's like one chance and then 50 shots, maybe. Or Cheltenham as well. Yeah. But 19 shots to 9. It's only 4 shots to 2 on target. And the XG is, and that for us is actually low, 1.03 on the XG, and in open play, 0.8. So either from what you're saying, Dave, it's a combination of what both of you are saying, actually, in terms of the attacking play not being quite sharp and them defending that well. I don't look at that and go, oh, God, how unlucky were we? Horrible smash and grab. It doesn't feel totally like one of those, does it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And you can tell by virtue, we had 19 shots and our XG's 1. So that sort of tells you the quality of the shots, the chances that we were having. Yeah, exactly. It was just huff and puff day, unfortunately.
No, I think a lot of it was down to them. They did defend. They were resolute and defended well, didn't they?
Should we raise the mood, guys?
Go. Let's
raise the mood, and we're going to do the Blue Monday Christmas giveaway. Are you ready for this? And I've got to read the... You're not ready for this? Right, are you all listening in the chat? Because we are giving away... Thank you to Mikey, isn't it, and Richard. FIFA 23 on Xbox One. So you can win yourself FIFA 23, or if that's not your bag, we'll give you 2 free passes for our Telegram group for the rest of the season.
Worth its weight in gold.
It's more than worth its weight.
I
got this new blooming phone, though, and I need to put the Telegram app on it. So I will be back in the Telegram group soon, but I'm just enjoying not having any social media apps on my phone for a week or 2, which is kind of
you should see what people are talking about. You're saying about them while you're not there.
Right. If you want to win the can I pronounce this? The Ipswich Kringle, which we did all. That's Richard's not just to blame for that. That's all of our doing, isn't it? Then what you need to do is you need to identify. Is it one or both of these?
Either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can show off and do both.
Email your answer to bluemondayitfc@gmail.com, and that's by midnight on Christmas Eve. And of course, you're going to have to watch the pod, Dave, because I'm going to put the picture up very, very soon. Please don't yell the answers out in the chat. Well, you can, but you're not going to win from there. But are you ready, everybody? This is the Ipswich Kringle, and we need you to win a copy of FIFA 23 here.
It's Kylian Mbappe. It's Kylian Mbappe.
He's had a quiet afternoon, hasn't he? So there is the Ipswich Kringle. Dave, I'm going to keep it up there. A couple of very handsome fellas in there, Dave.
They are indeed. I think you missed out. You can also, we're also going to give you Rich's home address, answers on a postcard through old goal of the month, match of the day styling. Sorry, Rich. No, that was a joke.
So, who is the Ipswich Kringle? I'll leave it up a little while longer to
What?
win Kylian Mbappe in FIFA 23. You don't win Kylian Mbappe. If you do, can you donate him to our football team, please? And we will announce the winner on Boxing Day ahead of Oxford. Okay. So I think I've left that up there long enough.
The one on the left looks like John Daly, the golfer. I'm sure it might be, actually.
Maybe it is. And if you want to,
but they've both got Christmas links in their names.
Oh, have they now, Craig?
There's a
There's a little bit of a clue going in there. So yeah, get your answers emailed. Blue Monday ITFC@gmail.com. It's probably on the ticker at the end with all our socials. So
Rudolph Austin.
Yeah.
FIFA, by the way, can only be won by someone in the UK in terms of us getting it to you as well. So that is the Ipswich Kringle. There'll be more of this if we do a midweek show as well. Hopefully no one's answered this. Oh, goodness me. We've got some Christmas presents in here. Nathan has super chatted $30.99 Aussie dollars. Thank you so much, Nathan. Morning from Melbourne.
Brilliant, mate.
Have a great Christmas all. Have a beer on me. Thank you so much, Nathan. That's really, really kind. And of course, our good friend David has donated €50. David, your kindness is absurd. Thank you, everybody who does support. These will always be free. You can support by simply hitting the thumbs up button. We do have to pay for the StreamYard tech and the Telegram stuff and to get Dave's computer fixed. And
honestly, get Ethernet cable. I tell you what, Craig, I was hoping Ben Southgate from Oz might be on the call tonight so we can quiz him on that unbelievable cricket match last week.
Well, yes, that and also the Test match was over in 2 days, so everyone's in a bloody hurry over in Australia at the moment, aren't they?
No idea what you're talking about. No idea. We talk about League One, guys. If you've got questions, we'll do them after we've talked about League One. I'll do my normal bang through, and if you want to pick out a game, I will come to both of you, lovely chaps, thereafter. It wasn't terrible in terms of postponements. We got a fair few ex-Premier League teams with undersoil heating, haven't we? I did feel a little bit not good about Fleetwood having a pitch inspection at midday when they've got Cambridge fans coming up there. But I can't do anything.
That's not good, is it?
No, hopefully those Cambridge fans who went will get some kind of compensation. This has amused me.
Well, I suppose the recompense was they didn't have to spend the day in Fleetwood.
Well, that much. Have you been to Fleetwood? Craig, you must have been, haven't you?
Yeah.
Been there, done it. That's the wrong load of fixtures, isn't it? That's Boxing Day. We can talk about that in a little bit.
Give us those results. I'll stick them on the Pools coupon.
There we go. So, Barnsley 2, Burton 0. Good day for Barnsley yesterday. I know they're still a little bit behind the top three, but they have won 5 on the bounce.
Couple of games in hand, though, Ben. They're in a worryingly good.
Remember, Dave, always add the points per game on, not 3. Yes, people go, they've got 5 games in hand. Let's add on 15 points. And you're like,
they are the form side at the moment. That's for sure.
They're on 1.8 points per game at the moment, so you can add 3.6.
Add 3 points exactly. Sensible. Bolton 2, Exeter 0. Another of the potential playoff opponents, depending on how the season pans out. Charlton 1, Bristol Rovers 2. Charlton without manager. Bristol Rovers Joey Barton doing a very good job as manager. Cheltenham Lincoln went the way of the pair. I figure one of you guys might pick Derby 4, Forest Green 0, featuring a hat trick from one 35-year-old Dave McGoldrick. Obviously, Fleetwood and Cambridge went. Posh and Shrewsbury went. Plymouth, despite only winning 2-1, I think were back to their sort of themselves a bit. I know it's Morecambe at home and they're
Mr. Penalty. Wigan missed the penalty and they scored last minute. Morecambe, didn't they?
Exactly. Vale, Accrington went the way of the pair. Ridiculous Dean Lewington, new manager, bounced there. That result doesn't make any sense to me. Pompey 0, MK 2. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Oxford 0.
How on? We've seen the highlights. How on earth didn't Oxford win that game? How on earth didn't they win it?
Yeah, they missed a
They
very
couldn't
late
score from
volley and
5 yards out
My
into an empty net.
goodness.
That's why they didn't win.
Oh no, but
yeah.
not the worst result, and obviously, 2 games for them on the road, isn't it? Us next up on the road for them as well.
It is indeed. Any ones you want to pick out particularly from there, Craig?
Well, yeah, I'll go David McGoldrick. That was just a nice again to see him score his second career hat trick in the space of 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, incredible.
But it says some great finishes as well, weren't they? I think it was his first or second attacking.
It's one where he
first
spins
goal.
and hits it left
Spins
foot.
and
Yeah,
hits
that
it
one.
left
Yeah,
foot.
but the first goal we attacked the near post, which is something that yesterday we didn't seem to do much. I know there's a lot of not control, but a lot of hate for Ladapo saying, he's not getting in the box and getting to the near post. Well, because very often he's the guy on the edge of the box who's held it up and laid it off to the guy that's getting the cross in, so he can't be in 2 places at once. But yeah, McGoldrick was in at the front post, and so that second guy, as you say, Ben, was Lady, went 1 touch, left foot, top corner. Thanks very much. Yeah, good luck to him.
Just a great play, a shade more pace, like just a yard, match half a yard more pace, and I know he did ultimately play in the Prem, but I think he'd have had an even better career at a higher level, because technically, what a great player, and it's really nice, isn't it? And obviously 35's in the sort of so-called twilight of his career, and never scored a hat trick before, and as Craig said, 2 in a couple of months, just amazing. The other one, I've seen looking through it. It's not much going on there. I mean, surely the Cowleys must be on borrowed time now, surely, aren't they? You would think so.
So they seem to be winning all their cup games, Dave. But and I remember when we played them, or maybe not when we played them. I was bigging them up, saying, there's good players. Pack and Dane Scarlett on loan, and always like
Dale.
Morrison at centre back. Bishop's obviously an absolute blooming nuisance, isn't he? So that's not going as well. But that really, I totally hate the term new manager bounce, but that totally smacked of, a fair win for MK, didn't it?
It did, didn't it? Yeah. It was kind of, because I saw the interview with Lewington, which was kind of nice, and he said, "Oh, what a start! Shooing for the job," and he still said, "No, I don't want it. So I don't want it." Right? Obviously, keep playing.
He's got another 5 years to play.
I think perhaps he would have played. He is going to play 1,500 games, isn't he? But and I think he perhaps would have played, but he's actually out with a knock, for goodness' sake. It must be the first injury he's ever had, I'd have thought. But that was just nice to see, wasn't it? Really, really nice to see. And it'd be interesting, as we said on the pod last week, to see where perhaps Liam Manning pitches up next.
Well, I mean, if I were Charlton, I'd be very interested in Liam Manning. But why would you sack Ben Garner, who's like Mr. Process from Swindon, and then hire? Interestingly for MK, it's like Darren Ferguson, Liam Richardson. Maybe a more long in the tooth.
Maybe. Yeah,
manager going in there, but we don't have any of those teams coming up in the immediate future.
Don't think so.
Do we? Right. Questions, guys. Do you want to get any questions in for myself, Dave, and Craig? We will answer them right now. Let's dive in. Charlie, we'll go with Craig. Ahabme looks like a long work in progress. How long does he get to prove himself?
Probably depends how long it takes us to sign a striker in January.
Is it that?
Or maybe more than one striker in January. If we got John Jules out and Hadme's, I said we can all see that Hadme's very, very, very raw. He looked a lot better in the Burton game, in the Burton game against us, than he has done since he's been playing for us. He looked a more all-rounded player.
Look how they played. It was every throw-in went in the box.
But he's still
onto his head, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he had Edmondson and Wolverton on toast that evening. But I say he looks very raw, and I say he'll get as long as it takes for us to get a half decent, not necessarily a replacement for him, potentially a replacement for Ladapo's starting place. So for hopefully 1st of January.
Could that be a bit like a Paul Digby or something, where they kind of come in and it doesn't really get near the team and they're off on loan or wherever fairly soon after.
Potentially, as Craig said, he does look very, very raw. And we thought at the time it was a panic one. He came in with camera, didn't he? Pretty much last knock into the deadline. And yeah, but I think people were up for it because, as Craig quite rightly said, he had a hell of a game against, for Burton against his early season. So yeah, very raw. You'd think he's young enough. They must see it on the training ground. Potential. You'd think potential there to work with him, but yeah, just not showing quite yet.
Interesting. Paul, Ben, how would you compare our speed of passing and forward momentum with a championship team such as Luton, Stoke already? You probably want to take Luton out of that equation. I mean, it might change now under Rob Edwards, but they're actually quite direct under in a good way, as in switch the play, get a wing back nice and high. Bit more patient than probably the comparisons. Strangely, considering they lost yesterday, probably more like someone like Norwich in terms of the speed. I think we're a little bit more efficient though in terms of our speed. Not saying we're better, but I think if the overarching point he's making is how would that style fit in, it would be okay with a few upgrades in. In
what you mentioned there, talk about knives being out for managers.
Oh, yes.
All is not well, is there?
Well, a certain song that our fans were criticised for singing was most certainly being sung down at. I spoke to some of my Norwich mates. Well, in fact, my Norwich mates were just texting me, actually, knowing what I was up to last night. So,
yeah.
Morning from Brisbane. He reminds me of Kiefer Moore. That's probably quite a good comparison, Michael, because the clear one with Kiefer Moore is he wasn't quite ready at that point and needed to go at a different level and develop up, and he's gone way past where we are now, hasn't he? So
he'll be playing for Morocco in the 2026 World Cup. Is that what we're saying?
That's interesting from Lewis, not Morgan Rogers, but Dan Jebison from Sheffield United. That I really like the sound. He was
don't know much about him, Ben. Don't know much about him.
He actually scored in the Premier League for Blades when he was like 17 or something. He was at Burton, but Burton were a bit crap last season, but highly rated there. Obviously, they've got Njayi and McBurney and Sharp and Kadra and about 18 strikers who are ahead of him. I got that. I wouldn't mind that. I don't know if he's out anywhere at the moment.
Where even is Morgan Rogers? Where is he this season?
I don't know.
That's the thing, isn't it? With January and our business in January we were talking about this in the car on the way home. Is what type of player are you going to get in January? You're either going to get someone that's going to get you pretty much everyone has agreement. You're here till May to get us promoted. Then we'll all shake hands and say goodbye. Or you're a Premier League or a Championship very good striker to come in and do a job, or it's someone you're going to sign that's coming with you on the journey through the Championship. But you're not going to be signing those sort of players in January. You wouldn't have thought, the latter one anyway. And then how do you persuade someone to only join you on a 6-month contract purely on the job to get you up, and then to say goodbye after that? I don't know. It's tricky, isn't it? It's really interesting to know or see who we end up signing in January.
Yeah.
Can I take this one as well, as it's vaguely Championship related, Dave? If we're in the Championship with this, with our current squad, how do you think we would do? Andrew, the squad is less relevant than how you go up and the momentum, because sometimes we've seen teams go through and not change too much, but they had a winning formula and kept going. Obviously, you're looking at 3-4 new first teamers, aren't you? That to make you viable in the Championship. But if you have a real settled team and you go with most of them, you can almost ride out that first few months in I mean, even Rotherham this season, by September, and they lost their manager as well.
Well, Sunderland are doing nicely, aren't they? Without how much change have they had since last year?
Not much, and the big. They spent 2 million on the centre half, and he's been injured for a lot of it. So the big spend wasn't there. This should be a fairly easy one to field. Chris, 45 or 48 points at halfway stage. Are you happy with that? It's a big yes from me, Dave.
I think it's a big yes on that as well, Ben. Yeah, I think that's we'd have all settled for that. And shows that we settled for that. There's a little bit of frustration attached to that. It could, shoulda, woulda, coulda been. Wow, let's face it, 6-7 points more. quite easily.
Dave, we've said this before. Unless you're going to do Reading 2005, 2006,
you're not
you're not going to win 33 games or whatever.
You know, it was the general consensus yesterday amongst perhaps the more sensible of supporters was that it was perhaps, you know, you're going to get these bumps. It's only our third defeat of the season. We're still averaging over 2 points a game. You are going to get these bumps in the road.
As long as
League One, Craig, as well.
Yeah, exactly. And as long as our extrapolation remains the same and Plymouth's extrapolation doesn't, then we'll all be happy, won't we?
I mean, look, we're slowly getting these players back, aren't we? You know, you said Evans back yesterday. You'd think hopefully no reaction harness, as Craig said, was doing drills, you know, with the subs and stuff. So, yeah, you're getting these players back. We've got a Luco back in the squad now. So suddenly, over the last perhaps fortnight, and obviously following yesterday, the squad isn't quite as thin as it was looking. So, yeah, it can only be good. And yeah, because a busy few weeks coming up, that's for sure.
This is Pete. I'll give this one to you, Craig, because you were there. Yesterday, it seemed like every cutback cross hit the first defender. Then Ladapo and Chapman didn't once make a near post run. Dave just said Fox in the box a minute ago, didn't he? Who's at fault? Fullbacks, wingers, or strikers? And I'll throw in stacked defences as well.
Yeah. Well, I think predominantly the last one, but there were chances that, you know, Burns had opportunities to pick people out. But, you know, if you're trying to pick out 1/2 people in the box that's full of 6 or 7 defenders, it's going to have to be a very good run and a very good pass to pick them out, isn't it?
What was your take on him yesterday, Craig, overall? Burns?
First half, he was very, very, very quiet. Didn't do much. Didn't do too much at all. Second half, he got more into it, but he was getting the ball a lot with the ball at his feet, you know, 30 yards from goal, which, you know, he did okay, and he sort of bundled his way past defenders a couple of times and got a sort of scuffy shot in. But as we all know, he's much better when balls are fed into the channel, into channels behind fullbacks for him to sprint round and onto. But the space simply wasn't there. You know, they were sat in. But just going on to Pete's point about Chaplin. Chaplin had a very quiet game yesterday. He tends to do that, doesn't he? He tends to have either quiet games or scoring 2 goals games.
But Craig, to Pete's point, Chaplin, I don't think you'll see come across the near post like Alan Brazil or whoever and sticks.
No,
he's going to be
on the
arriving onto stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But then, as I said before about Ladapo, it was the ball's being fed into Ladapo on the edge of the box for him to lay off or lay to the side to the fullback or the wing back. He's then going to have to get on his bike pretty damn quick to get to the near post to get on the end of that cross, isn't he? So it just wasn't quite working yesterday.
On that note, Ben, it was so nice last night. So I randomly after the game, I randomly switched on you know, the post-match show on Radio Suffolk about 5:20, just to hear GMAC said, and the next caller is, it's Rich from the Blue Monday podcast. Oh, hello. Asked a very similar question about Ladapo, except a bit like that. Referenced by Mick Mills, reference to Paul Marin and Alan Brazil. It made my day. Day. And I said that, and Rich's response was, "He was taking up my airtime." Oh, come on. Yeah.
I wanted to just go down that road because I know Twitter can be slightly deranged, can't it, to say the least. But lots of striker criticisms, and I know we don't want to do analysis by complete oversimplification. Oh, if you don't win a game of football, you need to do something with strikers and whatnot because you'll score more goals, and you know it's all a bit, isn't it? But where are we with Ladapo then, Dave? Because he was getting a bit of a burial on Twitter yesterday, I have to say.
But again, as Craig said earlier, he invariably he is the guy that gets a ball played, gets a ball played into his feet, maybe, I'm not saying on the edge of the box, maybe 30 yards from goal, takes a touch, perhaps finds a wide player, but then has to make the 20 yards to get maybe even 30 yards to get across the near post or get into the 6-yard box. So it's a difficult one, and I think people have been saying it all season. And 9 playing for us, now and at centre forward, and 9 playing the way we play is a task, because their chance creation probably isn't going to be that great. So it's it's a kind of conundrum, really, isn't it? I think.
But So,
But like you said, if you can find that, I know you would call him fox in the box, whatever cliche you want, someone like that, then I mean, there's goals, there's goals to be had, isn't it? There really is.
I think the issue being yesterday, in the time certainly when they were kicking towards us second half, when the ball was being fed into that near post, there wasn't anyone on the pitch to make the run past Ladapo to be there, because it was Aluko who was on the pitch at the time, who I've already said was playing deeper rather than further forward. There wasn't anyone, on the pitch at that point, because Evans was on the pitch at that point. He was playing deep. Morsey, isn't the sort of player to get to the near post. He's going to be on the penalty spot as well, isn't he? So we didn't really have that player on the pitch to make that particular run, unfortunately.
Chat's talking about Connor Wycombe, who's actually been better than I expected at Forest Green, but that doesn't. We had this word that I was getting very cross with in pre-season, a profile of player, but not sure that's the profile, is it?
I don't know if he played playing in their delightful pink kit at Derby yesterday. I didn't notice whether he was playing yet. Well, you wouldn't, because the highlights obviously showed McGoldrick's hat trick. But
I think you can call that magenta. If anyone wants to know what the colour magenta looks like, it's Forest Green Rovers away.
Reference Forest Green's away kit. Yeah.
Can I just make a quick point, Dave? I just put the top scorers up there. So Johnson Clark-Harris plays in a 3 in a very attacking Peterborough team. Aaron Collins plays in a 2 with a 10 behind him in an attacking team.
It's Colby Bishop.
But Burton are mental, aren't they? And there's loads of goals going in, loads of goals going against. Colby Bishop plays in a 2 and they put crosses and stuff in. Giovanni Brown plays in a 3 for Exeter with wing backs and has scored 4 penalties. And then it is Anis Mehmeti and Connor Chaplin. So the striker that's being described doesn't exist in League One at the moment. I'm not saying they don't exist or that all-rounder up top is a go. Do you take my point with the players in League One that are scoring goals? There's other sacrifices being made around the team, whereas we're set up with this possession stuff where that's deemed more important. Do you see where I'm going with it, Dave?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's surprising when you go through those. I still think that someone like Clark-Harris would score a bundle of goals for us, though. But look, that's clearly that's not going to happen, is it?
No.
But someone of that ilk, is there? I don't know. Is there anyone a league below? I don't know. Even saw Charlie Austin bandied about last week, coming back from Australia, apparently.
But it's quite interesting to look at that list there, Ben. When you do take out the penalty goals away from their total, I know they're still valid goals, etc. But from open play goals, should we say, there's certainly when you get past the top 3, people say about Colby Bishop, he's only scored 6 goals
a lot of
from open play in any way. So, as you say, that player either doesn't exist or you just need to play a different way and get people like Connor Chaplin, who's there on the list with 8 goals from open play, more involved and making the right runs at the right time. But as I say, he just had an off day yesterday, and had he scored that goal in the first half hour, then it would have been a completely different game.
Yeah. And speaking of completely different games, let's talk about what is coming up. If I click my buttons quickly enough, we'll get the schedule, because this is a bit more certain than the pod schedule, which is always a bit of a nightmare over Christmas, but pretty tricky, I think you would agree. I mean, look, we'll go in detail on the preview shows, obviously, but Oxford home, Pompey away, Lincoln away. And I suppose if I had to sum up those 3 teams, Lincoln draw all their home games. Pompey, Dave made a good point, though, about you wonder how patient the home fans are going to be at that point if Pompey haven't won on Boxing Day, for example. So that may play into our hands there. Oxford have underachieved, but they don't defend. I know they got a clean sheet yesterday, but they don't defend particularly well. And I'm almost fancy that game, Dave, more than the other 2, to be honest. Oxford home.
Possibly. Games. Christ, there's a bit. That game's 14th of January is looming large, though, isn't it? Wow.
And you've got to hope that Oxford play a little bit more expansively than they did last season. They were horrendous, weren't they?
Yeah, they weren't great, but
get used to it, everyone.
Yeah, look, get through these games. get through these games, and obviously you got the cup game you got the cup game the week before. If we can hopefully maintain our position top 2 coming into that Plymouth game, it just sets it up brilliantly, doesn't it? And we should do, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a sense we owe Plymouth one as well after that. That was such a tight game. It was a good game, wasn't it?
It was a good game. No, just 2 worldies, wasn't it? And then
the keeper was amazing at the end with the save, wasn't he?
It's ridiculous, wasn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Whittaker might be playing for us that day, mightn't he?
Walton came up, didn't he? Walton came up.
He did yesterday. Yeah.
That one. Yeah,
he did. He got sort of bundled to the floor, but there was nothing in it. But as we said, they're used to facing 6'4", 6'5" people from corners. Is what they do. So they're well drilled more than.
Was Alfie Mawson giving it out a bit at the end as well?
He was a lot, not as much as Strychek. My God, for a guy who's wearing a very ill-fitting shirt, he managed to get his. I don't know what's this. What's that called?
I think that's go that. F yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, but I don't know what it must have a name, mustn't it? That particular gesture. Yeah. But he was doing that quite a lot. The crowd were giving him pelters for, I say, wearing a. He looked like old mate at Little Britain, the only guy in the village with that tight crop top, sort of rid up up above his belly. So yeah, he was quite emotional after the game, striking. And then Alfie Mawson started getting involved and was giving it large to the crowd for some reason. I've no idea why, but in terms of the goalkeeper, he's been getting it, so he's more than entitled to give it, having just won the game. That's got no problem with that. But
and a really strange comment from Ainsworth I saw about. He said the players got fired up because we almost bought too much gear with us, and it was spilling out outside the changing room.
Not that sort of gear, Dave.
Not that sort of gear. No, not sort of gear. But apparently, equipment.
Too much equipment.
Equipment. Preface that. That was a bit odd shout.
Before we finish, let me just have a quick look at the giveaway one more time. So, who is the Ipswich Kringle? Win yourself a copy of FIFA 23 on Xbox One, or 2 free passes for our brilliant Telegram group. Email your answer to bluemondayitfc@gmail.com by midnight on Christmas Eve. So if you want to enter, you would have had to have watched this podcast. Right now, we'll announce the winner on Boxing Day ahead of Oxford. Let us know if you want the Telegram rather than the FIFA game, as that may not be appropriate for our outside of the UK people in terms of postage. There we go. Well, we've reached another Christmas. Let's just say a big thank you once again to David and Nathan, who filled our Christmas costs there.
Fantastic.
In the space of 2 lovely super chats. So very kind. It would have been nice to be top at Christmas Day, wouldn't it? Were we top at Christmas? You remember when we played Wycombe on New Year's Day under Lambert and COVID? No, it wasn't COVID. Literally just before. Were we top at Christmas then?
Possibly. Didn't we? Possibly. We certainly, when we played in the 14-15, we went top very briefly for a few hours, didn't we, after we beat Brentford, I think. But that was Boxing Day, of course, I think. But we'll take it. Look, we'd have taken it at the start of the season. So would have been nice to have been top at Christmas, but we'll let them have it as long as we're top at Easter. That's when it counts, isn't it?
As Joe said, as long as we're top on his birthday, which is 2 days before mine. So as long as we're top on my birthday, we can all have a party in Fleetwood for everyone.
There you go. You go. Yeah.
And Charles's coronation.
We were actually third with 36 points from 20 games. I mean, that we're talking about the disparity between
1.8, isn't it? That
then and now. Wycombe were well top actually. It was 7 points clear of us on the 25th of December 2019. Feels a long time. That was when Paul Lambert got the new contract on.
Well deserved.
He did.
New Year's Day, didn't he? Guys, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, very much. I got there, Craig, didn't I? For joining us as we round out another Christmas. David, Telegram is brilliant. Would highly recommend it. I would totally agree there. Lee, well done, guys. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Paul says, up yours. He's obviously referring to what the Wycombe goalkeeper was doing. Veronica, happy Christmas to you and Paul and the Southwest guys down there. Eric, another wonderful podcast. It's the most wonderful time.
He doesn't need an excuse.
Of the year. Right, thank you everybody. We'll click another couple of those up for joining us. Get involved in the giveaway. I'm going to end this right on the hour. So say goodbye, Craig.
Goodbye, Merry Christmas.
Say goodbye, Dave.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Goodbye.
Merry Christmas, one and all.